Here we're going to solve this quadratic equation by factoring, by going through these steps. So the first step is to write that quadratic equation in standard form. So we need to move that minus 12 to the other side by adding 12 to both sides of the equation. And now what we're going to do is factor it. What we're trying to do is change this into a multiplication problem that equals 0. Then we can solve it using the zero product property. So first step, when you're looking at an expression like this, you want to see if there happens to be a greatest common factor. Is there a number that we can divide each of those three terms by? And there is. In this case, it's 2, because we can divide 2x squared by 2 and we get x squared. We can divide minus 10x by 2 and we get minus 5x. And we can divide 12 by 2, and we get 6. We just changed what's in red into a multiplication problem. If we were to multiply this orange, we would get 2x squared minus 10x plus 12. Now we're going to break it down even more. So we're going to break down this. We're going to factor what's in the parentheses further into something times something else. So in order to do this, you look at the first term, we have x squared. X times x gives us x squared. So I'm going to put an x here and an x here. Now to figure out what goes inside the parentheses with the x, we need to look at that middle term and the last term. We are looking for two numbers that multiply to give us that last term. So multiply to give us 6. And add to give us that middle term's coefficient. Add to give us negative 5. So you just go through the different options. So like for instance, 1 times 6 is 6. But 1 plus 6 isn't negative 5. So it's not 1 and 6. How about negative 1 times negative 6? That gives us 6. But negative 1 plus negative 6 is negative 7. So it's not 1 and 6. Now let's think, what are other two number combinations that give us 6? How about 2 times 3? 2 times 3 is 6, and 2 plus 3 is positive 5, so we're pretty close. Let's change that to negative 2 and negative 3. Negative 2 times negative 3 is 6, and negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5. So we figured out what goes inside the parentheses. We're going to put a minus 2 and a minus 3. So now that we have factored it fully, we're going to look at what we have and use the zero product property. So product means multiply. The zero product property tells us if you are multiplying numbers together, which we're multiplying these three terms together, and the answer is 0, then one of those has to be 0, or more than one has to be 0. So if we look at the first one, 2, we know 2 isn't 0, but we don't know what x is, so maybe x minus 2 is 0. If x minus 2 is 0, then if we multiply that, we know the answer would be 0. Or x minus 3, maybe x minus 3 is 0. If x minus 3 is 0, then if we multiply these three numbers, the answer would be 0. So those are our two equations from the zero product property. Now if we solve those two equations, we're going to have our two solutions. So we see that the answer is 2 and the answer is 3. So x equals 2 and x equals 3 will both work for that equation. Those are our solutions. Those are actually going to be our x-intercepts if we graph it. We can always check our answer by going back just like any equation. If you go to that equation and we substitute in what we think the solution is, so if we substitute in 2 for x, we have this, and we want to see, does this give us negative 12? Well, this is 2 times 4, that's 20. 2 times 4 is 8, and 8 minus 20 is negative 12. So that checks out. And then you could do the same for 3. Substitute in 3 for x, and you'll see that When you multiply that all out, the answer is negative 12 as well.